really try to pay attention to this. It's really a powerful subject that can change your life. Get ready, guys. Put this down. It's distracting me. All right, so let's talk a little bit about first what the definition of emotional intelligence, which is also referred to as EI. What it refers to is the ability to perceive, understand, express, and manage emotions, both your own and also of others. Okay, so there's perception involved, understanding, expression, and managing of your emotions, being aware of how your emotions, how your language, your body language impacts others, and vice versa. We're going to give a lot of examples today of what I mean by this, but that's really the definition of emotional intelligence. And the next point is really one of the most important reasons why I selected this as a topic today. Emotional intelligence enables individuals to navigate relationships. That could be in your work, that could be with your direct reports, your maintenance supervisor. It could be in your personal life with your significant other, with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, anyone. Emotional intelligence applies to all aspects of your life. It allows you to communicate empathetically, make sound judgments based on emotional cues. It's like having a finely tuned emotional compass that guides us through life's interactions. How many people in the room are aware of emotional intelligence? Raise your hand. That's like 50%. Okay. How many people know a lot about emotional intelligence? Ooh. Only 3. And those 3 people are really good at emotional intelligence, so they're doing a good job. All right, well, you have a lot to learn today. I'm really excited about this topic. So let's talk about first the importance of emotional intelligence. Like I said, it enhances personal relationships. If you're having trouble with a relationship, whether, whomever it might be, let's just say it's your father. Elaine talked about her relationship with her dad, or Ellen talked about her relationship with her dad earlier on. The ability to understand emotional intelligence can help you in those types of relationships. It drives effective communication. Communication, whether it be verbal or through body language, is a critical component of emotional intelligence and how you manage that interaction. It fosters empathy and compassion. It facilitates better decision making. If you're making decisions as a manager, everyone in this room is a leader, is a manager of this company. If you're making decisions that don't consider the feelings of others and how others will perceive you, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. So it helps make better decision making. It promotes resilience and stress management. When we struggle with emotional intelligence, when we struggle with communicating with others, when we struggle with somebody not getting us, or we're not getting them, or understanding them, let's face it, it's stressful. It's probably one of the most stressful things that you go through in life. So if you're aware of how you interact with others, or how those people are perceiving the way you talk to them and interact, it can reduce the stress, especially the stress of that relationship. And research from Harvard Business School demonstrated that EQ and EI counts for twice as much as IQ and technical skills in determining who will be successful. Now think about that for a minute. You could be like really smart, off the charts. You can be really great at what you do. You can have the best technical skills in the world. But if you don't know how to relate to people, in my opinion, you're not successful. And in some ways, I think it's more important to have that emotional intelligence to know how to relate to people, it's even more important than having knowledge and technical skills. Now, it'd be nice to have all of those, you know? Not everybody can do that. But, you know, I just really want to emphasize that we need these skills. We have to have these skills, or else you'll probably be frustrated in life. You might, I don't want to go through all the bad things that can happen. You can imagine them. And Ellen really alluded to a lot of this in her earlier comment. I kept thinking, wow, that's emotional intelligence. Didn't she talk about how smart she was, but she had zero social skills? And she spent a lot of time developing her social skills, and I think socially she's awesome. But that didn't come easy to her. But it was that sense of awareness that helped her develop those social skills so she could relate better to her people. She's running one of the best run companies in the city. I mean, you don't just do that by luck. She did it because she created a company where people are motivated, they like talking to her, they feel heard, she understands them, she gets them. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because she worked on her emotional intelligence. So let's talk about the components of emotional intelligence. And I've already used some of these words a few times. The first is self-awareness. It's probably the most critical component of emotional intelligence. And it's recognizing and understanding one's own emotions. I'm going to give a lot of examples of these, so I'll try to keep a little high level now, but I promise you I'm going to delve into this, or zoom in, as Lev said earlier. I like that expression. That was a good one. Self-awareness is critical. The way I talk to Dawn, and the way I react to her, I have to be aware of how I'm acting, how I'm talking. Am I raising my voice? Am I talking in a way that she's hearing me, that I'm hearing her, that we're connecting to one another? And the way I talk to Dawn, I should have said up front. The way I talk to Dawn is different than the way I might talk to Billy. Billy might want to be talked to in a different way. And I have to be really aware of myself and how I react to other people. The way I talk to my wife is different than I might talk to other people in this room. And again, I'm going to give a lot of examples. Self-awareness is not an easy skill to develop. A really great way to develop it is through meditation. A really key component of meditation is self-awareness. So we'll definitely delve into that more. Self-regulation, managing and controlling one's emotions effectively. If I'm aware of what are my trigger points, you know, what annoys me, what aggravates me, you know, and I can be aware of that feeling. I can feel it like right in my gut. I'm getting revved up. I'm getting upset. You know, I can then regulate my emotions. I can regulate my outbursts. I can regulate my hissy fits. You know, I can regulate how I react to that emotion. But you can't regulate that emotion without being aware that you have that emotion. And how many times have you said something or did something that you regretted? Anyone in the room?
Today, right?
Two truths and a lie. That wasn't a lie, right? Today. Elaine said today. I don't know what you did earlier, Elaine, but thank you for being honest. But if we could have recognized what triggered something we regretted by being more self-aware, we could have avoided that. And don't you feel horrible after you said that or did something, especially if you do it to a loved one? You know, how many times have you said something to a loved one and later on you said, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Was that me? I would have never said that. You know, but if you can understand that feeling, or oh my God, I know every time I talk about this, it's getting me revved up. Or, you know, or I'm on the phone with customer service and I'm having a hard time. Maybe I'll just let it go. It's only $5, you know? If you can recognize those trigger points, you can avoid that stress. Motivation, channeling emotions to achieve goals. We talked about goal setting today. Ellen talked about it. Being aware of who you are, what your strengths are. Ellen talked about it too. Is a way to help you achieve those goals. empathy. Understanding and sharing the feelings of others. If I'm talking to somebody, who else can I pick on here? Michael. And incidentally, I gave Mike and I candies earlier. I just want to put that out. If I'm talking to Michael, and Michael's telling me about, God forbid, a sick loved one or something, part of emotional intelligence is understanding, you might be feeling pain right now. You might not be feeling good. I need to be sensitive to that. I need to calibrate the way I talk and deal with Mike and show some empathy during that period. Pretty obvious stuff. And then finally, social skills, building and maintaining healthy relationships. When I look at the people in this room, and this is what I think is really special, every person in this room, there's something that's special about each and every one of you. And as a leader, just a person, I think it's incumbent upon me to try to recognize what those things are so that I can develop a relationship with that person and not just ask them about work, ask them about their family, what they're struggling with. It's part of what I've tried to develop in myself and my own emotional intelligence, to be aware of that, to show empathy, to have that type of connection. All right, let's dig into self-awareness more. And again, I really think this is the most, if there was one takeaway that I'd like you to have from today's session, is self-awareness. This is really the most important component, in my opinion, of emotional intelligence. And the definition, again, is knowing and understanding your own emotions. The importance is it's the foundation of emotional intelligence. And again, like I said earlier, an example is recognizing stress triggers and then managing those emotions. So we'll dig into that even more in a minute. So let's give an example of self-awareness. So Sarah, project manager, noticed that she felt overwhelmed during tight deadlines. Has anyone in the room ever felt overwhelmed? I know I have. Two people don't lie. There were a lot of lying going on. By recognizing her stress triggers, such as a heavy workload, she started practicing mindfulness techniques. Elaine knows what that is, and delegating tasks more effectively, leading to improved work-life balance and reduced stress. So if you know that feeling of overwhelm, you can feel it in your chest, it's getting tight, you're having trouble breathing. You got the Sunday, what do they call it? The Sunday night shivers? What is it called? That's right.
Not that I know anything about
If you got the Sunday night scaries.
Does that mean you're taking Sundays off?
If you got the Sunday night scaries, because you know that Monday morning you're going to be so overwhelmed, what can you do to manage that? You have to take ownership of it. You can't play victim. Victim's off the table, right? You have to own it. You got to recognize that feeling, say, oh my God, I got the Sunday night scaries. And now what can you do to manage that overwhelmed feeling? You know what to do. I don't have to tell you. We can see what Sarah did in the example here. If there's things that can be done, and there's a lot of things that can be done. But it all starts with that self-awareness. You say, I'm just not feeling right. This doesn't feel good to me. And I know what happens when I don't feel well, don't feel good about something, it's going to trigger a bad outcome. I'm going to be crabby to my significant other. I'm going to kick the cat. We had a lot of talk about cats. I'm going to kick the cat. I'm going to be crabby to my employees. Nobody's going to be around me, and it's not going to go well. All right, so let's talk about self-regulation. Now I'm aware of what I'm feeling. How do I regulate that? And again, it's managing and controlling one's emotion, avoiding impulsive reactions, maintaining composure. If you really find that your moods, you got these mood swings, you got a lot of hissy fits, again, you need to understand what's causing that and be aware of it. An example is staying calm under pressure, adapting to change. So let's do an example of self-regulation. James, the sales executive, learned to control his impulsive reactions during negotiations. Instead of reacting emotionally to client demands, he developed the ability to pause, assess his situation, and respond calmly. This led to better client relationships and increased deal closures. So that's a really great example. You know who that actually reminds me of is Alan Lindy.
Mhm.
If you've ever been on a call with Alan where you're negotiating something, you know, I'm like ready to rip the person's lungs out, and Alan's the nicest guy in the world, and he gets what he wants. But it's because Alan recognizes that if he regulates his emotions, he's going to get a positive outcome. I would have ripped the guy's lungs out, and I would have got nothing. You know, so who's more successful?
So here's what I learned from Alan in that kind of situation. Hard on issues, easy on people. So you run into a problem, you want to be easy with the person, separate the issue from the person. And that will allow you to be pretty direct on the issue, but kind and easy with the person. A lot of times people confuse that. If they're feeling hard about an issue, they'll get hard on the person, and then the person recoils, and then it just goes into a spiral. So what Alan taught me is that phrase, which has been a good watchword for me.
That is a really great example.
Yeah.
And if you can like block out the person, or even feel love towards that person, which is sometimes hard to do, because you're so angry at them, you're probably going to treat them nicely. Do you know that there's been a lot of studies done of why there's so many shootings in big cities, and one of the most common reasons why a bad guy or girl shot somebody, they didn't like the person. They didn't like the way they looked. They didn't like something about them. They didn't like them. I mean, it's really, really a sad commentary. But if you can think about that other individual in a more loving way, you might not want to go that far, and separate, you know, any feelings you have towards that person. I think it helps you regulate your emotions better. Alan?
First off, thank you and Elaine for the kind words. I'm not sure I appreciate, I'm not sure I accept all of it, but I will say one thing that I have found helpful as we're talking about this. And Elaine, you may remember we had supper with John Fry before the end with it. I don't know how it came up in conversation, but I have found it very helpful not to take criticism personally with it. That I figure when, you know, first of all, in the service that we're in, and realistically, we're gonna receive criticism and some of it. But I find if you don't take it personally, it's either one, it may be accurate or partially accurate, and that's helpful information. Or if it's said, and it's not necessarily, I don't think it's accurate, at least I have the opportunity to hear it, to assess whether it's applicable or not, and to thank the person for the feedback. But I do find life is a lot easier, and you can, like you said, you can close more deals and be more successful if you don't, you know, take the negative stuff personally with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and hopefully take it as an opportunity to improve whatever it is that you're working on.
Great, thank you, Alan. Thanks, Elaine. All right, so let's talk about motivation. Again, motivation is using your emotions to drive towards goals. The importance is sustaining enthusiasm and commitment. An example is turning setbacks into opportunities for growth. Did Ellen talk about that this morning?
Yes.
That was what she was all about. She used her setbacks, you know, foster homes, you know, and, you know, her father, relationship with her father and her stepmom, she used that as motivation to get out of that mode and do better and be successful. So we can play victim, we can say, woe is me, we can say, oh my God, look at the situation I'm in, or we can try to be aware of what's happening to us and use that as motivation to do better. So here's an example. Look at the light went on. Maria, an entrepreneur, faced numerous setbacks while starting her business. However, she channeled her frustration into motivation, viewing challenges as learning opportunities. This resilience fueled her determination ultimately leading to the success of her venture. Do you know that almost every successful individual had many setbacks? If you look at any of the billionaires, Leon Musk, any of the top billionaires in our country, they all failed multiple times before they were successful. But they were able to challenge those failures into motivation and success. So empathy. Again, it's understanding and sharing one's emotions. The importance is building strong interpersonal connections. And an example of that is active listening, considering perspectives. And does anyone know the definition of active listening?
Being quiet.
Not being quiet. So active listening is if I'm talking to Shayna and we're having a conversation, is acknowledging, as we're speaking, staying focused, not thinking about something else, being empathetic towards her, acknowledging, making her feel heard and making her feel felt. That's considered active listening. So empathy is a key component. It can cover any part of your life, your relationship with your employees, your relationship with your significant others. Obviously, it's a skill we all need to have. So here's an example. Tom, a team leader, improved team dynamics by actively listening to his team members. During a challenging project, he took the time to understand their concerns and perspectives, fostering a collaborative environment and boosting team morale. I can think of so many examples, including at Lindy Communities, where we had hurdles to overcome, we had problems, and if we take the time, and many times we do, to sit down with the group, really try to understand what people are feeling, showing empathy, making them feel heard, it just goes a long way. It helps with teamwork. It helps with people saying, this is really tough. I can think of when we did the HUD inspections, for example, huge amount of work, a lot of pressure, time constraints. But when the team, has a chance to feel heard and listened to, we can really overcome anything. Social skills. So the definition is building and maintaining healthy relationships. And can't overemphasize enough how effective communication and collaboration is important. An example is conflict resolution and teamwork. So, we constantly encounter situations with our employees. Maybe people aren't getting along well. There could be issues with residents. There can be all kinds of conflict. And it's important to sit down and talk about this. Again, make people feel heard, have really good communication back and forth, really listen, and if possible, try to solve the problem. If not, it's okay if you don't solve it. It's more important that people feel listened to and have a chance to voice their concerns. So here's an example of social skills. Emma, a manager, excelled in building strong relationships with her colleagues. Her effective communication and conflict resolution skills create a positive work culture, resulting in a more cohesive and productive team. I mean, how many times have you seen somebody, it could have been somebody you worked for, maybe in high school or even now, hopefully, or just somebody in life that is just so good at what they do, so good at leading their team, so good at communicating. It's probably because they have really good social skills. They might not even be that great at their job. But what's more important is, do they have the social skills and all the things we're talking about here? I can think back in my career, of some of the people that progressed the most in the company, became, really high level individuals, and probably their top attribute was their social skills. It wasn't their technical knowledge. In one case, it was his golf game. But it really wasn't any of that. It was really their social skills. They just had that knack of just really interacting with people, being aware how they interacted, and just communicating well, and that's what really made them successful in their careers. So let's talk about developing emotional intelligence. Now that you understand what it is, let's talk about how do you develop it. So again, it starts with education and awareness, understanding this concept. And again, I'm going to give you some more examples. Practicing self-awareness. You can do that through journaling, which is a really effective technique, through mindfulness, through meditation. Meditation is a really excellent way to learn about how to be more aware, more mindful. I do it every day, including this morning. Seeking feedback, encouraging open communication. Hopefully the people in your life don't feel intimidated by you. Hopefully they feel like it's safe to talk to you, that you're not going to cut their head off, fire them or something. You want to try to create an environment. You want to try to create an environment where people feel like they can speak to you and not feel like they're going to get in trouble for it. Empathy exercises, role playing, perspective taking. You know, I would say that any of you could role play with any of us at any time. We've done it before. Like, you know, a lot of times, if the regionals and I are encountering an issue, or Janice and I are encountering an issue, we'll role play, we'll practice, we'll go back and forth through different scenarios. Because when we speak to that individual who might be struggling, you know, maybe they're on a counseling statement, we want to be ready to really do our best to connect with that person and help them through their struggle. So practicing is important. Emotional intelligence and leadership. Again, every person in this room is a leader. You might not think of yourself that way, but you are a leader. Leaders with high EI improve team collaboration, hands down. If your team is struggling in any way, it might likely be due to not having good emotional intelligence. Conflict resolution helps you handle disputes effectively. And inspirational leadership, it motivates and influences others. If people don't feel engaged in their job, maybe because of lack of emotional intelligence, they're not going to feel motivated and inspired to do great things. Alan?
Your talks have me thinking of different things with you, Brian.
Good.
And your comment now, because I connect with it a lot, is if you have a group and you're leading a group and you made that comment, if there's not smooth communication or tension or something like that, I would add to what you're saying. One of the approaches I have found helpful is when there are issues, whether it's personal or professional, is to look within in terms of the resolution, not to blame somebody else, but to blame other groups of people with it. And in fact, and a lot of this is just, you know, my particular perspective or nature with it, but when I'm with a person, I do make judgments on the person of whether they're blaming others or whether they're looking within themselves in terms of how to solve a problem with it. So I just wanted to emphasize the point you just made. I think it, you know, at least for myself, it's been very helpful with it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. We certainly need to look within and not blame others. That's an excellent point. Thank you, Alan. So let's go through some case studies. So these are actually my personal case studies. We're going to go through each one. I'm going to ask you what you would do in this situation. There's prizes up here, so we haven't given out many prizes today, so we got to catch up a little bit. So number one, and this is a real life story that I encountered. So Chris, former HR manager, resource as a data credential, and Brian worked closely. Chris was actually in the office right next to mine. Okay, so just picture that, right? Frequent discussions in Chris's office about HR matters, attentions arose. So I do a beeline out of my office into Chris's office right next to mine. Now, Chris, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think of this? Right? Chris occasionally displayed frustration with Brian. And I'm going like, what's going on here? Check to make sure I took a shower that morning. What is going on here? rumors circulated that Chris was unhappy with Brian. I'm starting to hear, Brian and Chris aren't getting along, they're fighting, what's going on? Sounds like a bunch of kids, right? Brian confronted the issue and discovered Chris felt pressed for input. So, if you were Brian, what would you do in that situation? So basically what happened was Chris was saying, look, you're putting me on the spot. You come in my office and you ask me, how are you gonna handle this situation? I don't like being put on the spot. I don't appreciate you jumping in my office, 5 times a day. I don't like that. So what would you do? I'd rather roll your eyes. I know some people might roll their eyes. What would you do in that situation? Kayla?
Firstly, express your apologies that what you were doing made Chris feel the way that he did.
Empathy, right?
Empathy.
Apology, taking ownership, right? Recognizing Chris's feelings, right? Good one, good one.
Ooh, thank you.
Anyone else? Melissa?
You can also tell Chris your feelings on how you are, why you go to him, because his input is valuable to you. So make him feel better about himself.
Right. Try to validate him in some way, to try to explain, how much you respect him.
Yes.
And perhaps he might understand better where I'm coming from. But I would only do that after you apologize.
Right, you do that.
And try to understand how he was feeling, right? Anyone else?
I would probably ask if there's a different or a better way to approach him. You know what I mean? When you come to him.
Good one. Is there a different way? Ask Chris, how else can I interact with you? And I actually did that. So I said to Chris, Chris, I just thought it was okay to walk in your office. I'm really sorry. I just was not aware. I did not realize I was putting you on the spot, stressing you out. I know you're busy. What could I do to better interact with you? And you know what he told me? Just send me an email. How simple was that? How could I have not figured it out? How stupid was I that I didn't figure that out? Seriously. So meantime, I'm in the meeting with Chris and the head of HR, his boss, and he's like trying to arbitrate this thing. And that was the solution. But I was so unaware that I was stressing this guy out. Shame on me, seriously. I grew up in all seriousness. Shame on me. And when I heard what the issue was, I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world, but I didn't want to judge him on how he felt. That's his feeling, right? And all I had to do was send him an email, and he was fine. And to this day, Chris and I are really good friends. Is that a great story? Anyone want to cry? All right, that's one of my favorite ones. Number 2, so we had a top leasing performer in the company, and all the names have been changed to protect identities. Julie, who expressed stress about the commission program. So this is a resident service representative, and they don't like the commission program at all. Brian assumed monetary motivation for leasing staff, but Julie did not share his sentiment. So here I'm thinking, like, everyone in leasing ever created since the start of the earth is motivated by money. And poor Julie is stressed out about it. Go now. So, what would you do? What would you do if you were me? Anyone? Suzanne?
Ask her what motivates her.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Ask what motivates her.
Ask what motivates her. Pretty logical, right? Yeah, I can't walk all the way back. All right, so yeah, ask what motivates her, right? Try to understand what motivates her. And some people, believe it or not, are not, that's for your phone, are not motivated by money. And you can't just assume everyone's motivated by money. And in that case, it was really important for you to be aware of, hey, why is she struggling? What's going on there? Sit down and talk to her. try to understand what makes her tick, what motivates her, ask her what motivates her, and then try to structure something around it that will work for Julie. This stuff sounds really simple, isn't it? But it all starts with an awareness that maybe somehow I'm not interacting, I'm not asking the right question. Maybe I'm just demotivating her and making her feel stressed out about something because I made that assumption that everyone's motivated by money.
I was thinking it's the leasing staff, so maybe Julie's not motivated by money, but maybe get the team together and collaborate ideas and whatnot. Maybe if she would hear the different opinions and voices from the team, maybe she'd come around to that, or they can come up like Suzanne said with something different, but get the team involved.
That's an excellent suggestion. If there's an issue like that, it doesn't always have to be one-on-one. Maybe it could be more of a team approach for the team to help Julie. Great suggestion, Stephen. If you like that. All right, so let's go to the third.
What is it?
All right, so number 3, my direct report, Alice, found intimidated and hesitant to share her true feelings. You know, as leaders, especially the higher up you go in an organization, I believe that you have to realize that you intimidate people. It could be, you know, your presence, your title, it could be the power you have, but all of us to some extent intimidate others. It's not necessarily a bad statement, it's just a fact. It's just the way it is, it's just life. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, but we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware when we walk into a property or that there's a certain presence that goes with you walking in. You know, think of it like in the military. Jackie maybe can help me with this example. In the military, if a 4-star general walks in, what do? They go like this, right? The salute.
Stand up and salute.
Salute. How do I do my salute? I've never been in the military. My son's retired Marine. But anyhow, when we walk in, and it could be any of us in this room, all being leaders, we intimidate others. We just do. And as a result, people are nervous. People who are interacting with us might not want to share their true feelings. They might not even share enough information. They might feel nervous and say the wrong thing. So, in this case, I know, I'm walking in the room, Alice is there. I'm aware of, who I am. I know I'm a tall guy. I don't try to, honestly, I don't try to intimidate anyone, but I know I am intimidating people. It's just a fact. So what would you do if you were me? Hey, or you're you, what would you do? Natalie, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I'm halfway there, right? You think that you're intimidating to people when you walk in just because of your position is what you're saying, right?
It's not just me, I think all of us.
Oh, yeah.
All of us.
Just walking with a smile and say hello. Greet them before they greet you.
That's a good.
Bring
one.
it down.
That's a good one. Bring it down. Bring the temperature down.
Yeah.
Right now, you're good at that today. So she's awesome at that. Kayla, this is a 251 thing here. What's going?
I was inspired by Natalie, so bringing it down, but also bringing it in.
Yeah.
Finding ways that you can relate to that person, right?
Mhm.
And how you can connect with them.
Bringing.
That's what
Bingo.
I was gonna say.
Bingo. Go,
I was
Melissa.
gonna say, like, a personal question, how's your family,
Yeah.
how's,
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it down, bring it in, make it personal, so that you can relate to those people. Absolutely critical things. Thomas.
Yeah, it's like y'all do, like y'all come into a property, y'all smiling,
Yeah.
not looking all like, I'm over you and stuff.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
come in with a smile, and that helps people relax.
Right.
Absolutely. A smile, it's amazing how powerful a smile is, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable what a smile can do. I know when my daughter was dating, I said, just smile at the guys. She's pretty special, but that's beside the point. But yeah, smile just brings the temperature down. Any other suggestions? Galen?
Removing boundaries between you and another person. Don't sit on the other side of the desk, sit with them and address them on their same level.
Excellent suggestion, removing boundaries. Remember, a large percentage of communication is body language. Even, I forget what it is, like 75% or 80% of communication is body language. It's not the words. So if I'm sitting behind a desk and Dawn comes in to talk to me, this is a barrier between Dawn and I communicating. Now, if I get up and walk around and, give her a hug, or I say, I have a wife and kids, or whatever, that hopefully removes those boundaries. If I'm sitting like this, that's also bad body language. I once had a manager that I reported to, and every time I went in his office, his head was buried in the computer. I think I only made eye contact once with the guy, and I worked with him for 6 years.
Wow.
That's terrible body language, just terrible, absolutely awful. There was a whole story that one time that he looked his head up and I told him about somebody stealing from the company. It's the only time he made eye contact with me. So not good. So we want to remove those barriers, and people will feel less intimidated. Anything else? Any other suggestions? Yeah, so I think as leaders, it's important for us, and I always have to catch myself as well on this, not go right to business. To step back, sit down, don't just go on the walk, just don't go do a beeline to whatever the issue is. Sit down. These are real people. You all are real people. You have real good stuff, bad stuff, all kinds of stuff going on, right? Everyone in the room has got stuff going on, right? We all do. We're humans. So my day, frankly, could be more productive if I just at least give you that ear. Sure, I can deal with all this stuff around here. We can do that. But if I really can relate to you, that's really where I might add the most value. That's where I can make the biggest difference. Any other comments on this? So two more examples, case studies. Brian emphasizes the importance of creating an inclusive workplace with open communication. Brian takes the lead in meetings but notices a lack of input from others. Acknowledging the issue, Brian seeks ways to encourage diverse perspectives. How many people have ever sat in a meeting and only one or two people spoke up and most of the people in the meeting did not say a word? Anyone ever experience that? Anyone want to guess why that might happen?
Probably fear.
Fear?
Yeah.
It could be.
Saying the wrong thing.
Sorry?
How's that?
Thought they were going to be heard? Yeah, that's a problem. Steve?
Possibly feel judged about what people think.
Feeling judged?
What they have to say.
Yep. Shana? Overall morale of the company? Melissa?
They're not engaged, they're just not listening.
Not engaged, not listening. Kaylin?
Feeling like there won't be any action.
Okay, won't be any action. Thomas, is that what you're going to say?
You feel like what you say don't matter.
What you say doesn't matter? Wow, I think I could really hit on a chord on this. It's a no.
Does it happen
On any one point. This one I'm really going to give a lot of thought to. So, what can Brian? I shouldn't even use my name here, but what can I do as a leader? I'm aware of this. I'm aware that I might intimidate people. I'm aware of all the adjectives just used, fear, and everything. I'm aware of that. I get it. So what can I do? Very simple. So far, everything's been really simple. What can I do as a leader to try to encourage more participation and get rid of fear and all the other things we just discussed? Okay, I could have one-on-one conversation, but we're in a meeting setting, right?
No, I'm just saying in general.
In general?
Out the blue, just call, talk to them, hey, how you
Yeah, that's right, you can kind of grease the skids before the meeting, okay? Lisa?
I would say, you could have them reply by email or write their questions and thoughts down, and this way, they don't, you could just have people write it down and submit their questions without their name being on it, so they don't feel like they being, standing out or feeling uncomfortable.
Good,
Just
you
have
can-
them write it down, their questions.
Get their participation through email, ask questions, so they don't feel, fear in the meeting. Travis?
Maybe hand out prizes when they,
Other suggestions? Caitlin?
Leading by example,
Leading by example?
something that you've spoken about, you've taken action on, you've created plans, you
Yeah.
can accomplish,
Yeah.
bring it to fruition.
Bring it to fruition by leading to example. Was there another hand in the back here? No? Any other ideas? So I have a really, really simple solution to this one, really simple. And it's one I really try hard to do. I don't know that I do a good job at it, but I'm really aware of it, and I really try hard at it. In my opinion, everyone in this room, if you're in a meeting session with your subordinates, you should speak last. I want to say it again. You should talk last. If you gotta bite your tongue and there's blood coming out of your ears, it's okay. But every single person in this room, I mean this, I feel really strongly about this, should speak last. If we really are committed to developing our people, and they don't feel like they can speak up, then we're not developing. See a lot of head nodding, that's a good thing. So what we want to do is we want to speak last, because that will encourage our people, assuming we've created a safe environment, right? There's no fear or intimidation. Our people will speak up, they'll gain confidence, they'll think through issues, they'll be more apt to want to make suggestions. We'll create a more diverse, inclusive workplace, right? Diversity and inclusion. We'll get new ideas, new perspectives. But if you're always the first to talk, the loudest voice, the most powerful voice prevails. Guaranteed. It's just the way it works. If you've studied anything about organizational behavior, that's the way it works. So we should speak last. When the question comes up, you know it all. Listen, you know it all. That's why you're in the position you are. What are you trying to prove, right? Do you know it all? But if you can develop your people to think through problems, if there's a problem, say, hey, what do you guys think? And play dumb, let them solve it. You're gonna have a better environment. You're gonna have an environment where people want to participate more. And if you're aware of this, when you go into a meeting, I'm aware that I'm intimidating, you're creating fear, maybe they're lazy, they don't want to talk, and all that means something. I'm aware of all this, and you get in that meeting session with all your subordinates, you have a golden opportunity to develop that team. If they're always coming and running to you every 5 minutes, what do I do here? 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 How many people are in that situation where they're constantly running over here? So truth and lie, there's lies there. That's how you develop your people. Everyone in this room, in my opinion, if you're in a meeting with subordinates, you talk last. Okay? I said that 3 times on purpose. I'm aware I said that 3 times on purpose. Elaine.
I just want to offer another suggestion, which isn't perfectly aligned with what you said, because it's more of a dynamic if you are speaking. But when you have 1 or 2 people who talk a lot because they have strong personalities and they are controlling the airspace, and there are others who haven't said anything, a lot of times it's a personality, they don't know how to mount, they don't know how to get in. So sometimes it can be helpful to just sort of state, we haven't heard yet from so-and-so or so-and-so, we want to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
Just kind of clearing the deck with it and giving them the opportunity. And sometimes I felt fearful in saying that I don't want to put anyone on the spot to do it, but I've been very surprised over time that whenever that happens, the person who had been silent, hadn't said a word the entire time, comes up with something very salient, very applicable, very valuable, and but they would not have done it on their own.
Yeah, no, we should solicit input, especially from the people that have been silent in the room. And I agree with Elaine, you'll be surprised what that individual says. They might have been quiet because they were taking it all in and thinking through, something. So, I think in a well-run meeting, everyone speaks. And everyone feels like they have the opportunity to speak. And again, you speak last. Last one, number 5. Brian faces challenge with the contractor. Do you have any issues with contractors? Long-standing relationship with the company owner, Adam, who recently promoted Tony to president. Brian's unhappy with Tony's proposal, approaches Adam, causing tension with Tony. This is actually a real-life example. I won't mention the vendor, but it's a real situation where the president of the company, who I've known, 25 years, is stepped back. He hired a new president to run the company, and I didn't like what the new guy said, so I went back to the old guy and I said, hey, here's what I want. Needless to say, the new guy didn't like that. He didn't like somebody going over his head. He'd just been handed the keys to the company, basically, and he didn't like the fact that I went over his head. So, what should I have done in that situation? Michael, I see you're trying to include you in this.
I would have had a conversation with Tony before stepping over my head. That would be like me stepping over your head.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like that either.
Yeah.
And I would have had a more formal conversation with Tony, tell him the history that we've had with the company, and then try to get him to understand our ways and what we would like to have.
Yeah, yeah. Any other suggestions? Yeah, so really, yeah, so, really, here again, I really wasn't aware, I should have been, that by going over this guy's head, that would have caused friction and problems. Shame on me for not having that level of awareness. So it certainly got dicey for a while, but we broke bread together, we had lunch, we talked it out. I apologized, and promised not to do that again. And now we have a great relationship. So that's a relationship that could have festered more. But it started with recognizing that I made a mistake and then trying to make him feel heard and felt and actually sitting with him face to face to try to resolve it. And at this point now, I feel like I can call that individual at any time, and we put that behind us. So again, these are all examples of how to use emotional intelligence to start with self-awareness, understand how I'm reacting to other people, how they perceive that, and how I can better adjust the way I react or interact with these people. And I've often said, you probably heard me say this, the best managers are the ones that can alter their management style to the people they work with. It's a critical component. And that assumes the person that you're working with has a good attitude. If you have a bad attitude, it's probably not going to work. But I would say that I have a lot of different management styles. And I try to calibrate that to the person I'm dealing with. Some people, might like, if you raise your voice to them, or if you push them harder. Other people might not like that. It really takes an understanding of how I'm reacting to that person, how they're perceiving me, and how I can adjust that to the person I'm dealing with. A couple more slides and we'll be done. So the challenges in overcoming them. Again, recognizing and addressing emotional blind spots. In some of those case studies, man, was I blind? I had no clue. I mean, how many times have you come home from work and you might be in a great mood and your significant other, you're talking and you're like all bubbly, and then you realize that the significant other had a really bad day, didn't tell you, and you're probably not on the same level as he or she is. It's definitely happened to me. So that's sometimes being blind. strategies for overcoming common challenges. We talked about a bunch of those today, right? Encouraging a supportive environment for emotional growth. Listen, we're all human, we're all gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna walk out of here and I'm gonna be totally oblivious to something I said or did. But we wanna grow, it's all part of continuous improvement, which is one of our core values. We wanna understand who we are, how we interact, and how we can grow and be better people for it, and better managers. So, let's talk about an example of challenges and overcoming them. Mark, a team member, initially struggled with expressing his opinions in meetings due to fear of rejection. We talked about this. Through coaching and support from his team, he overcame his challenge, enhancing his emotional intelligence and contributing more effectively to the team's success. Okay, so we talked about that. I think it was Sheila's example. You know, if there's an individual that's not participating, maybe talk to them outside the meeting, coach them through it, and then solicit their input during the meeting. Try to help them develop that confidence. How many in this room have been promoted in this company? Wow, that's a big percentage. You know, one of the ways we did it was because somebody probably mentored us, probably helped us along the way, probably helped us develop the confidence and the skills, including in the area of emotional intelligence. We have a duty to do that for other people. This is who we are. This is part of our culture. We develop our people and we try to help them progress in their careers and be success. Because if we're a success, we're a success. So, assessing your own emotional intelligence. I don't think we're gonna have time today to do this, but again, we will email box link with all this information. There are millions of things online, literally, on emotional intelligence. This is a very quick emotional intelligence quiz you can do. And I was hoping to have time to do it today. It only takes about 10 minutes. It's, I don't know, like 10 or 15 questions. You can go through it quickly, and then you'll get a free assessment of how you are doing in terms of your EI score. It might be really enlightening for you. You might think like, you know, this is all a bunch of junk. I'm good at this. I get it. I interact with everyone great. But when you do one of these quizzes, you might be surprised.
Are you able to show some examples of some of the questions?
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it right there, right quick. So, I do not become defensive when criticized. I'll say on 3, just for the heck of it. I can stay calm under pressure. Hopefully I can do that. I handle setbacks effectively. Hopefully I do that. I manage anxiety, stress, anger, and fear in pursuit of a goal. I think I do that. I utilize criticism and other feedback for growth. I am positive. And I retain a sense of humor. I definitely try to do that. I try to see things from another's perspective. I recognize how my behavior affects others. Boy, I talk about that a lot. And I hear grievances skillfully. That's a very hard thing to do, so I'll just say neither agree or disagree. You know who's very good at that is Janice Gregg. I can listen without jumping to judgment, a very important skill. I can freely admit to making a mistake. Which of the risks listed below do you struggle with at work and find the most difficult to initiate? Well, some of these things we've covered here. Well, I don't know if I'm just gonna pick something here. Giving critical feedback, and I think I'm almost done here. In what situation do you feel the least confident to take a risk? Giving critical feedback, hold someone accountable, suggesting a new idea, admitting mistakes, making tough decisions. So I'll put a small group situation, and here's my results. Here, click print your results. Oops. So, I have good EQ EQ, which is the same as EI. This is good news. EQ counts for twice as much. And that was some of the feedback. Trust me, there's all kinds of stuff over the internet will give you much more detailed advice and feedback than just that. This is a pretty basic one that I was going to try to do just really quickly in this class. This is one of the best known books that I would recommend if you really want to pursue this further. I would strongly encourage you to. I read it actually twice. It's called Emotional Intelligence by Travis Bradbury. It's probably the Bible of emotional intelligence. If you'd like to purchase this, a company will pay for it. I didn't buy a stack of books like I did last year because I didn't know how many people would be interested. I didn't want to, presume you were, but I would really encourage you to do it. The first step of reading this book is actually doing a much more detailed EI assessment, and you get a lot of feedback from it. It's online. It's really in-depth EI assessment, and then recognizing what your strengths and challenges are in the area of EI. The book then takes you through how to improve in those areas. It's an excellent book. It's an easy read. It's only about this thick, so it's not like one of these big books you get. You can definitely get through it. I highly recommend it. And that wraps up emotional intelligence.